What's poppin'? I'm currently sitting down at the couch after taking a little bit of a break after coming back from the gym. Did some light work, you know, some deadlifts of 500 pounds, couple of reps, nothing too stressful or heavy, just some light work. Roll the clip. 500 solid ass pounds.
800 solid ass pounds.
Nah, but all jokes aside, as you can imagine, I just had to, you know, take a little bit of a break after such strenuous physical exercise. I thought I'd take this moment to give you a little bit of an explanation and show you and explain to you the tools I'm using to build the app, how I've been doing it and how I will be doing it, and just, you know, the tools I'm using, the programs, etc. A bit about how I learned it, and just a quick top line overview of how I'm building this app. So let's get to it.
I know we're acting stupid, being dumb, maybe just a little bit foolish, but it feels so young. Just go a little crazy and lose it. I don't care if we're dumb, it's the only way we know how to do it. Make me feel so young.
So with all this talk of coding and app building, you may be wondering how I'm building this actual godforsaken app that I keep on talking about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to tell you just that. When I first wanted to learn how to make an app back in January, I had no clue what to do. So I did some really thorough research and I picked the first thing which came up when I googled how to build an app. I knew some Python and SQL already, but my coding skills were very basic. You know, I kind of understood the main concept, but I didn't know any details whatsoever. So I clicked that first link in Google which came up when I googled, and then I just read, watched YouTube videos, etc. Tried a lot of things myself, you know, built a lot of dummy apps, etc. and then learned from there basically. So that's where I started, and that was like a year ago, maybe, something like that. So this thing which I came across was called Flutter. And Flutter is this framework developed by Google which runs on a coding language called Dart, which is also made by Google. I had no clue if this thing called Flutter was good or not, but I'm not very good either, and my standards are very low in general. Yes, low standards, you heard that right, ladies. Dart seems to be quite similar to JavaScript. I don't really know too much about JavaScript, so I can't really tell you the details about that, but from what I've seen, it seems to be quite similar. So Flutter seemed quite good because quite a few big apps had been built using Flutter. Like all of the Google apps, for example, a lot of the big Chinese payment apps like the Alipay, not necessarily Alipay I think, but like the Alibaba general app was built using Flutter. So quite a few big apps have actually been built using Flutter. So, you know, I thought, why don't I give my hand at learning this, and maybe I can make these big apps one day. So what Flutter does is that it basically connects this language called Dart to a bunch of widgets which you can use in order to build this app. So this makes it quite a bit more simple to build an app, since you don't have to build all of these functions yourself. Like for example, if you want a button, you don't have to build the entire button yourself from scratch within the app. You can use a button widget and then you just style that according to your needs, and then of course you have to write all of the code in order to make that button function, but that's, you know, kind of like a given because everyone will have a different function for the button. But no matter what app you're in, the general layout and the way a button works will be the same. So that's what makes it quite easy. You get like a big scaffold, it's called, and that's basically the app page, and then on that you add whatever you need, whatever you want, and that's basically a bunch of widgets. So you'll have this empty page, you'll stack like a container widget which contains the entire screen, and then within that you put a column widget which is a column, and then within that column widget you'll have maybe 10 different widgets which is the children of this column, and in this children in the column you may have text, and within that text you may have, you know, color property, etc. So you can see how it kind of starts at this high level, which is like this screen you have, and then you just add widgets to the screen as you go down the widget tree, it's called, and you just add more stuff there. So that's quite simple in itself. What quite easily becomes complex though is when you have to move in between these widgets. So you press something on one screen and you want another screen to do something, and you want to navigate to that part while displaying this widget if you're logged in, etc. That's what becomes quite complicated. But the general UI in Flutter is very easy to build, and that's why I thought it was pretty good, and that's why I've really found it quite easy to learn, to be honest. What is good about Flutter is that you can use to build both iPhone and Android apps. Both because I'm a lazy bastard and I can't be bothered to build two sets of apps, you know, who can be bothered to do that? But it also makes it much more simple to keep it updated in the future, because, you know, if you need to make an update on one, you will have to make it on both if you have two separate apps. But now, you need to make a change, you just do it one time as opposed to two times, which saves a lot of time. Also, it's worth mentioning that all of these things are free. Could we just pause for a minute there and acknowledge how are all these things goddamn free? You know, how do people eat? How do they make a living if they're just making these things for free, giving it out to noobs like me? I have no clue. But how does this business model go around? This whole coding world is just mad. It's people building stuff for free, helping you out for free. It's like code communism. And I have no clue how it goes around. If anyone knows, please let me know, because I'm curious to find out how this whole world operates. But what I do is I use Dart and Flutter, which is these two that I've already explained, and using an IDE, which is basically a program where you program. So basically a program where you write your code. I use Visual Studio Code, which I think is like the most popular one. And then I simulate a phone on my computer. And using this Visual Studio Code program, I go in and I edit and I write the code, etc. And using Dart and Flutter. And then just right next to this IDE, I have this phone, which I use in order to show the changes which happen when I update the code in real time, almost pretty much. By the way, Apple just gives you a phone for free if you have a Mac. So if you have a Mac, you can just simulate a phone on your computer. So why do you need to buy the most expensive iPhone 13? You already got it right there, bam, in the virtual world. But then they make you pay like 2 grand for an actual one. That's a real double standard. Kind of like if you're burning a body at a crematorium, you're doing a good job. But if you're burning a body at home, you're just hiding evidence. For legal reasons, that's a joke. So, let me show you real quickly how I'm building this app, because like the title suggests, that's what this video is about. And although you know you could probably watch me speak here for hours with this awesome Rice Krispies shirt, you probably came to get some insight into how I'm building this app. So let's get to that part.
Okay, so here we have it. So this is the typical layout which I use when I code. And this is the IDE which I was referring to, called Visual Studio Code. So basically that's this whole window. And usually the layout I have is that I have the IDE here to the left. It's quite annoying because you can't really expand it any more than it's already expanded without taking the whole screen, and then you miss out on this phone here. So this phone, this is the device which I'm using to sync all of the changes which I make in the app. So for example, here are all of the files which we use. Depending on if you're on Android or if you're on iOS, there will be different files which you use to upload the app to the App Store or Google Play Store. But this is all generated by Flutter automatically, depending on what the files you have in this category are, the Dart files basically. So right now I have a bunch of different files that are organized into services, which is things such as the audio file. It has a bunch of functions which I can access through the other files in order to play audio depending on what I'm doing on the app. I have the authorization file, which is used to log in and log out users. It's also used to check if a user is logged in. So for example, if you're trying to listen now, you can do that if you're logged in. But then if I head back and I actually log out before I do this, I won't be able to listen to the song. So for example, I press listen now and I'll be taken to this page, which is sign in or create an account to listen. So I can either close it or I can listen to it now and then sign in, sign up, where I do that here. So these are the files which support all these functions, you know, the navigation in between, etc. And then these files over here, which are not in the services category, they're more of the UI files. So for example, the main page, this is where we have the, let's take a widget for example. So this is the homepage scaffold. So we have a scaffold, like I said, and then we had the app bar, which is this one up here. So it shows the title. So you see app bar, title, text, Wonder Sagas. And then you see it kind of works like a tree. So you have the scaffold, you move down one level to the app bar, another level down to the text, another level down to the text style, and then you move to the colors and the font weight, which is basically a text style. So you can see how it kind of goes from top to bottom, and how you go from a top level widget to like the scaffold for example, or this, in this case, the most top level widget is this homepage scaffold, and then a scaffold, app bar, text, text style, color, etc. And then we move on to, for example, the center. So this is just to make sure that everything's centered in the page. And then we get to a list view, and a list view, which is what makes this scrollable, for example. And the list view will contain a bunch of different childrens. We have the featured, for example, so you see how it's featured here. And this is the neat thing about Flutter. So say now that I want to change this to promoted. I change that to promoted, I hit this button here, and it will rebuild the whole app in real time. And as you can see, it will change the text to promoted from the featured, which makes it really quick to develop because you don't have to restart anything. You just do hot reload or hot restart and then you're good to go basically, which is quite nice. But let's change this back. So as you can see, then in this list view it has a bunch of different children, and the children are the horizontal list here. So you see you have a horizontal list there, you have another horizontal list there, and now since we're not signed in, of course we cannot have any favorites, and then we have more lists here, etc, etc. And then, for example, we can see that when we press one of these, we're taken to the search page, for example. And then so if we switch over here on the left hand side, if we press the search page, let's see if we can find it, you know, real time, right there, boom. So this is the search page, and this is what's displayed here. So as we can see, we're importing stuff from the database basically, and then what I wanted to show was that here. So this is the function which I was talking about, passing data and details in between pages. So on this on tap, when you press one of these, this is what happens. You're taken into a navigator push, you're taken to a material page route builder, which then sends you to this saga view. And this saga view over here is used to build this page which comes up when you click this one. So this page, where you can see the description, you know, I have like a fun one here for my friend, and then you can see the tags as well as the similar sagas based on what the tags are. You can also do further things here. So for example, if we have the saga view, which is here, we can see that if we press, for example, one of the tags down here, 1 second, there. So if we press one of these tags, we're taken to material page route builder, category view, category saga view, and then to the specific tag. Okay, now it wants to update, we'll save that for later. So for example, if we press sport, we have these two here, and then I can just, you know, keep on repeating this forever essentially. Non-fiction, sport, etc, etc, and then it keeps this whole stack. But this is the general layout, and you use these files in the library mainly, which is, like I said, the Dart files, which are then compiled, I think it's called, into Android and iOS files. So for example, here in the Android one, you'll have these various files. I don't think I meant to show too much of this because there's sensitive data in there, you know. But and then also you can generate web apps with Flutter. And then over here, PubSpec YAML, this is basically where you have like all of your dependencies and those kinds of things. So these are the apps or the plugins which I'm using. Mainly it's apps used in order to access the database as well as the sign-in stuff. But this is where you make any general changes which will apply to both your iOS and your Android app.
Okay, so that's it. A bit of a description of how I'm building the app and the tools I'm using. All you need is a computer, an internet connection, and more patience than this British guy who's been waiting to be king for a while. But that's it. I hope it cleared some things up. And thank you for watching. See you in the next one.
I know we're acting stupid.